Hey everyone, I'm Alex Levin, and we're together here in Sun and Moon Yoga Studios YouTube portal. I'm recording my first recording. The sound didn't come through. So, this practice together, maybe it'll be 20 to 30 minutes. We want to have what we need a comfortable space. Um, I've put the fan on the floor. It's pretty hot today, but sometimes when the air conditioning kicks on, I might need my shawl. I've got cushions underneath my tush, and I get another one actually. Grab another, and so just like when you're whatever we're preparing for, maybe it's to cook a soup. We sort of know, and we know from our experience if we've cooked it before what we'll need. We'll know that the kind of pot that works well. We know the temperature setting on the range, etc. But there's also might be some surprises, or we find out like last minute. Oh, somebody's coming who can't have this ingredient. So, what do we do? How do we open up to that? How do we know we have all we need? Today, usually what I have done in these practices is talk a little, then do talk about my theme that supports our practice, dive into a little bit of movement, a micro movement usually, and then a meditation. Today, we're going to turn that around a little as I did a few weeks ago. I will talk a little in the beginning, and then we will sit for our meditation. And from that, we'll go into a little micro movement. So I'm thinking in part of uh, our practice and how does this get us to um, knowing all we need. Sorry, my eye is watering. Get a tissue in my back pocket. I have what I need in my back pocket. Um, so what I sense, and maybe you've had a taste of this, maybe you've had a little taste where when you're really, really able to be fully present. And what does that mean? What does it mean? So I'm going to go on a little tangent. What does it mean to be fully present? Where and you've had a taste of it. So it's if I can put some words around it, it's sort of a combination of letting what we're paying attention to be right here, sort of having a little bit of our attention focused on what our body feels like and this space and this ground, having a bit of a awareness, attention on how what our emotions and heart senses, and maybe a confidence, a trust in our spirit, our source. And so that is very much speaks of to what yoga is to be attentive and aware of all parts of ourselves, and then so being more fully integrated right here and now. And it's elusive. So and my good fortune to be in workshop in person with Eric Schiffman many years ago at Feathered Pipe Branch in Montana, where Annie and Amir, I believe, oh no, where Anne Jablonski has been there last week. I think Annie and Amir are at a different place at Moon Meadows Farm, another friend's place out in West Virginia. In any case, um, I was asking him what I forget. This was a long time ago. My question was something about how do we how when we've had this taste of that presence and then we find ourselves out of it, how is it we find our way back? And his answer was very koan-like to me. It was very much I was a little, miffed, but in the end, after a little bit of I knew because I have great respect for him and there was a sense of resonance to it. He said, "Practice on the easy stuff." So the koan for me, sitting with that, I'll get to that. But he also did expand a little bit on it, and he said something about like once we get more familiar with it, we just slide back there. So when we've practiced, when we know how to get there, back to to that place of presence, it's easier to get back when we know the path. But I think one of the tricks is the path is not always the same. However, the conditions we can set up, the stopping, the pausing, kind of a checklist of where's my body, where's my breath, where's my mind, and even if the mind, and even not arguing with it, but just sensing my mind is wherever. Uh, what about where's my heart? What are the feelings I'm having? And so when we are blessed, as I think I am, and maybe you are, to have these opportunities that I have a comfortable, safe place to come to daily. And daily is a good idea to do something daily because it just gets more ingrained. Just like as I was focusing on when we train with our dogs for that relationship and the training, the more routinely we can do that, the more what's the word I'm looking for? The more consistent we can be with some practice. We'll get to that place where whoosh, we can slide back to it. And what's the value of it? What's the value of that being present? I think maybe I've already listed that, but and there might be many. And in fact, I'll leave that for you. I'll leave that question for you as we move into our meditation practice. This practice of being silent, being right here in this space where we are, this space, recognizing spaciousness, silence, stillness. And those are sort of a necessary trio to slowing down so that we can get out of the grips of our conditioning, out of the grips of all our experience, all our knowing, all our the files of that we tend to use, that limited sense of, however, it's limited sense of self. And it's fine, it's essential, but our error and our sense of not knowing, not being able to know all that we need, not being able to realize what all we need is right here, is in that limitation and in that spacious, silent, still place. We can start to taste the more of what we are, that boundless, infinite source and potential. And we'll be working with that. How we sense that in our in meditation, and then the movement will come second today, so that we find how we transition from that stillness and where we know we get that glimpse of that vastness, and we come back to um, how we move around in our life and how we can practically apply. Um, how we can tap into that source and let it flow into whichever challenge we find ourselves in, or whatever joy we find ourselves in. All right. So get what you need to either lie down in stillness, to sit in stillness, to maybe you're lying on your side in like a seed pose. And the meditation practice will be about 10 minutes, and the movement practice about 8 or so minutes. And movement, mind heart practice of sorts. So let's begin. One way that I find very helpful to slide into the here now presence that we are is this trio: ground, sound, breath, pointers. You don't necessarily have to start with ground. Sometimes breath is what pulls to me first, but usually I start with ground. But right now let's go with breath. And while I'm guiding this way, you can find your own way to slide in. You might have your own tools that you prefer. Breath, ever available, always available, delivering and receiving life force, even in stillness, massaging and helping our physical well being. Regenerating us moment by moment. And the breath is interacting with that ground pointer. Ground that refers to, in one part, very useful to just the tangible, solid things we feel, the body, the ground. And in this place each of us lives on this rock, this planet, and its surrounding atmosphere, any point that we drop, maybe a point that's in my shoulder, and if I drop a line right down to the center of the earth, that's that one half of this force, the gravitational force pulling all the way in, and we all meet. Every one of those points meets at the same center of this rock, this earth planet. Can you feel that? A very useful one is that center line. And if you're lying down, you might even consider it sort of right from your solar plexus down to the center of the earth. Or you could take all the points, say, of your back, and imagine they're sort of like a kite having many, many strings that go, all those strings. For those of us sitting, we can just take that one central channel in front of the spine, takes us down. And the more we listen for the feel of this, the felt sense, we'll be able to re-find it. It's never quite the same, but we know the path here. We know the doorway to go through to open certain attentive avenues. And it brings us right into this presence. You might be there already. You might have been there with breath. You might have been there the moment we sat down. And then when we add sound, the third prong of this doorway, maybe just the word, takes us to that connection. These other kind of 2 points, so the ground was any point in our atmosphere, which can include any point in or on our body. And sound is a point out there and a point in here, a point anywhere out there and in here connected. And it includes not just audible things, but sensory through the temperature, through touch, through smell, through taste, and even seeing. Even if eyes are closed, there's a seeing, an inner kind of seeing, imagining. And we can be in the place of memory and all the experience that makes up our conditioning that is here with us, but it's limited. So when we open to what is it now, this incredibly miraculous body we're given, this being we're given to interact in this way, arrive to the right here, right. So it may be challenging to sit in stillness, spaciousness, silence, to be in. It doesn't have to be sitting. When life is so full of challenges, or even whatever large challenge can seem to be the most important thing that we must focus on. But maybe you're getting a taste now, and maybe you've had it. Maybe you've had long interludes with this. Feel when we've entered into the here now by sliding in through this dharana, through a relaxed focus on something right here, something simple that is useful, easy. But when we're doing that really fully, the wide open, boundless, infinite source that is us and available to us becomes apparent. It's not something the linear, time based mind can grok, but rather it can only be known right here and here and here. And we can start to see that that conditioned part of ourself is such a tiny, tiny bit of what we are. Perhaps that can feel scary. But perhaps we can start to see, trust into. And don't take my word for it, but just as you're getting tastes of it and perhaps lingering in it, the feel of it, and the words are not it, but the feel of it may a couple of Annie's words this week: kindness, generosity, peacefulness, so like a harmony, safety, might be a feel of safety. And if it's not these things, welcome that. That might be tough, but welcome that. And we'll start to work with that in just a moment. Let's take a few more moments in this right here presence, however it is. And we bring an end to our practice. I do it through a palms together in front of the heart and a bow. And sensing what that this gesture or what this transition feels like for you. What's the expression? And sure, you could go back to and have longer meditations, but it's also very useful to our life, useful and giving to how to the next thing, to how we can express this off the cushion. So to be able to say this was my practice, and while there really isn't a separation, there's a usefulness to knowing that's a dedicated time and place. Now we transition, and you might just, if you not like, you can change your position to be a little more comfortable. Stretch out one leg. And here for this practice, we can stay on that, sort of stay on that place where our mind is in a little different place. Our heart, body, mind, spirit is in a different state. We're not quite back to activity, but we're going to play with an activity, a practice. It's a movement of our attention more than a movement of our body. We will use our hands. And so I invite you to place your hand or hands on either maybe your belly, maybe your heart, maybe your neck or throat. So see what might be calling to you. And I'm gonna place my hands on my heart. And kind of like a sonogram for a couple minutes, we'll be listening and translating. So when we're sitting in meditation, we're mostly listening. The translation part happens quite naturally. The Howard Cosell, the commentator in our minds, is always available. And so here we're going to allow that commentator, but we're going to have the commentator listen more, be a little bit more of a listening presence, slow down, because communication of the body is a slower wavelength than the mind. The mind is super fast. And so here we're listening, kind of saying hello, because it's as if there's two entities meeting, as if there's our hands and attention listening into the body, the felt sense. And we'll report out loud if it's comfortable for you, and there's a reason for that. I'll model it. Oh, I'm noticing a little there's a breath in the lungs and heart, and there's a little restriction. It's almost like a barbed wire. A barbed wire um, at the top here. And then we listen for, as we heard ourselves say that, we listen to how we felt it, how did we feel that the sound of it. Did that ring true? Is it barbed wire on top of like a spacious breath space? And images might come, and even part of how you report could be with your gesture, with your body or hands, not just your words out loud. So there's like this space that is I get it more accurate, almost like a weather pattern. I've got a nice, easy breezy space of my heart, and it's a little even bigger than my body. And on the top there's, yeah, it's something prickly, and it's restricting some airflow. So it's a nice, easy space here. Hello to all that. Hello to this maybe prickly vine. hello to it. I'm going to focus on this prickly vine that's kind of asking for my attention. Not, there might be a tendency to want to try to change it, understand it, but first, let's just let it. Can I hear? Can I hear it? Feel what its expression is. Of course, your felt sense, your imagery may be very different. Of course, it's different. Unless maybe you have something similar in you, and that may be it might be resonating for you. Is there something that this prickly vine wants to say that's felt like it's been trapped, it's been not allowed to express itself, and it's fine if it doesn't. Can we give it the permission to not speak, not divulge yet? And often what happens when we give it permission to not yet share because there's risk for it to do so, hasn't been allowed to, it's been maybe condemned, imprisoned in our own body. To now open it to light, it might need some time. And so, just because of the limits of our practice, I'm going to leave it there and I'm very curious, this relationship. I'll be back to see what you have, who you are, what you might have to share. And then when we release our attentions, kind of go back away and release my hands. Something may have shifted through this practice, just like it shifts through our meditation practice. And to bring our attention now to, to this body, mind, spirit, heart, and to have done this practice where we get a little more true report of what's happening here, report from the frontier, this inner frontier that may have been trapped for a long time and maybe pounding at us for our attention. When we can express that more truly, more fully to another, to our mates, to our families, to our friends, to our communities, there's a gift we give and a permission we give and a opening of communication. And I'll be addressing that in our future meetings together. So now, once again, a transition as we say ta-ta for now, ciao for now. Transition and noting that because we go from this quieter mind state out to what's next in our world, um, we can recognize the difference and we can become more agile to pop back into these states and draw on them. They're all actually here all this simultaneously, but we can draw on each as it may be needed um, into our wholeness. Thank you. See you next week.